Good morning. It's Saturday morning. It's 9 o'clock and it's time for Sunrise. I am Alero Edu saying welcome.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise this morning. As you can see in the background, there's some similarity between my partner and the background this morning. So that's a good thing. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
You're welcome. I was just talking to that person having a cup of cocoa. You know. What a week, right?
What a week. The World Cup was doing its own, pulling up all kinds of surprises.
Well, the boundaries of normal went with 2020. You know, where we somewhere in the scriptures, the Bible says, how are the mighty falling?
Benny.
Seriously, that has happened, you know, in this World Cup. And
it was like Nigerians were in mourning yesterday when Brazil lost. So, which one is your own, dear?
Wouldn't we have been happy to beat Brazil? Oh, by the way, I saw a video.
Green, white, green should have been there.
I saw a video, yes, where some guys, you know, were saying, where is Nigeria? In Qatar. Where is Nigeria? Nigeria is not here. You know, it was cheering to know
and
that.
And at that point, your shame was complete. But indeed, why are we not here? Indeed,
we were one there.
we were there. But I'm sure that we're working hard so that we can be at the next World Cup.
The thing we should do, Alero, is not plan for every 4 years. We should plan for identity. Let it be a thing. For instance, the whole world is shocked that Brazil lost. Why? Because Brazil is a football nation.
Yes.
Everyone knows that for Brazil. Football nation. So for Brazil to lose in the World Cup was shocking.
Yeah, but they also know us in Africa.
But just, exactly. Just keep it like that. Can we go to the next item on the agenda?
Sorry. Now, this bank withdrawal thing that the CBN came out with in the course of the week, well, it's causing a lot of furore to a point where the National Assembly has summoned him for next Thursday. Come on here, boy, and come and explain yourself. What exactly do you mean by this grammar you're speaking? You know.
You know, if you remember, part of which the CBN governor also reminded us, that this whole cashless thing started as far back as 10 years ago, 2012. We haven't quite caught up on that.
We haven't quite embraced it.
My challenge remains, and I still go back to the Babangida days. Communication. Look, this is going to happen. Tell us when and how. Well ahead. Don't try to pull a surprise on us like some joker from a magic box. Let people know and let people mentally prepare that whether I like it or not, this is going to happen. Okay, a woman who gets pregnant doesn't have that child that day, right? She's
got 9 months to plan.
So let that be the kind of thing that Nigerians, okay, give us a year ahead. Guys, in 1 year, this is going to happen. In 1 year, okay, 6 months, and let the conversations begin.
Yeah, but Ayo, we're talking about Nigeria, for crying out loud. We have electricity issues, we have data issues, you know, connectivity, you have Wi-Fi, your Wi-Fi has downtime. I mean, all that you need to take into the picture before you decide this kind of thing.
That is the reason that we have various agencies handling various things. It is a job of the CBN to recognize that this thing is going to happen. In the midst of all of that melee, let the information come out from time to time. Even if it's just once a week or once every 2 weeks, this is going to happen. This is something you need to know, and all of that.
National Orientation Agency?
Well, let me just assume that that's not there right now, okay? But at least let the people, the agencies that's directly involved, do something. I mean, INEC, the elections is going to happen next year. Where is the National Orientation Agency?
Ayo, this is a country where there's an error in transfer and you'll have to wait a minimum of 5 days for that payment to reverse.
No, it depends on your bank.
Sometimes it takes up to a month.
Well, it depends on your bank.
So which small business is going to make that kind of error and can afford to wait?
In fairness, also to CBN. Okay, so if you saunter around Twitter, let me not say go there. If you saunter around Twitter, for, sometimes you will see some. I think someone, a mutual friend, whom I'll tell you about, later, called out. No, was it? No. I think it was someone else. Well, he called out the CBN. No. He called out a particular bank.
Okay.
And mentioned CBN in the tweet.
Okay.
Guess what? Please DM us, says the bank. And in fact, they went out all of their, the help desk, the care desk, the this desk, the emergency desk, all of them say, okay, just inbox us, email us, and all of those things. So sometimes it takes that.
I'm not impressed.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm not impressed either.
I'm not impressed.
Because my experience had been anytime there is an error or something, there is an instant reversal. If it's not reversed immediately, there is a problem. Okay, so I probably don't make much of it, but if it is up to like say 6 figures, I will make.
Listen to my own story. It's not a big amount of money. I mistakenly punched somebody else's number and transferred some money to the person's account. So I went to the bank to say, oh, I mistakenly. They say you have to write a letter. Okay, fine, and then they will reach the recipient bank, and if the money is still there, the bank will probably block the money, but they'll have to appeal to the person into whose account the money went to transfer the money to me. I said, oh, suppose the person decides that they don't want to transfer the money. The error is mine, so I should suffer for it. So, well, that's it, tough. But I have just told you that I don't even know who this person is. The money was transferred in error. Well, they say, okay, but the bank will block the money, so the person will not have access to the money. So
neither will you.
Exactly.
Well, I think that.
And this all may take 1 month.
Well, that's a given. They will say it's your error. I've made the error as well one day.
And that's it. You lost the money.
No, by the grace of God. But you see, to the issue that you raised about the withdrawal limits and all those things, let me believe that the CBN will reconsider and at least make some adjustments or review to the whole thing, because especially for small businesses, I saw a cartoon. I painted something in a remote area, somewhere in a village.
Yeah.
Says so. Both of them went to a mountain looking for network.
That is real. That is real.
Exactly. So I hope CBN is aware. Some people go to the mountain to look for network.
That's in the rural areas.
Exactly.
Even in the urban centers, we have problems.
In the rural areas, that's where commercial transactions happen for agriculture, food security, provision, supply, and all those things. So if I have a market, for instance, so I don't know if the limit is on transfers, though. I think it's only on
cash withdrawals.
Cash withdrawal and all those things.
Yes. So the DSS and the note 48 hours notice to NNPC and to marketers.
NNPCL.
Oh, yes, limited.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Which Falana has described as an empty threat. I mean, I haven't read the story, so I don't know what he meant by an empty threat. Did you happen to read it?
Well, what the learned silk is saying is, look at the laws. There is no way the DSS or SSS or whatever name you call it will act outside of the confines of the law.
Okay.
Whatever it is that the DSS says when they do deploy their whatever it is all over the nation, I guess we're going to wait to see. But it is today that the 48 hours expires.
Will expire.
So let us wait see what the DSS.
I have a bone to pick with facility managers in the country, and I'm wondering if there's any regulatory body. Because of the cost of diesel, they're taking residents to the cleaners, and they're ripping residents off right, left, and center, especially those who live in estates where estate managers are now kings.
Well, I think it depends on the estates themselves.
I know that there is a body called IFMA,
Yeah.
International Facility Management Association.
I think that's the place to take it to. Yeah, I think that's the place to take it to. Let's just hope that they know what to do.
Well,
After all,
they'll be getting lots of complaints very soon.
That's a human right. Right to,
It is, because today is Human Rights Day.
and that's our first topic, by the way, today. International Human Rights Day. So what that is about, we'll find out more.
And then we'll talk about cybersecurity awareness. All kinds of cyber crimes are happening, including people tapping into your phone, into your bank account. Well, that's cyber crime. So you need to stick around and hear how you can prevent all this from happening to you.
Focus on orthopedic medicine in Nigeria is also something. What's a doctor of orthopedics called? Orthopediatrician? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, okay.
Then we shall be looking at We Niger Literary Contest. What's that?
Well, we'll find out. Lifestyle today is going to be talking about preventive medicine. No, not traveling. We will not be traveling today. Preventive health for the youth, because some people are going to be consuming anything and everything else.
Yeah, we touched on that with our nutritionist 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So Christmas is coming, so how do we not gorge ourselves silly?
And that really is the challenge, because many are going to throw the limits off.
So we're going to get plenty of...
RSVP. What's the RSVP?
people looking rather more healthy.
And of course, Artist of the Week follows that one. We'll take a short break, and when we return, let's get to it. Okay, time for us.
So thank you for joining us this Saturday morning. I see a bit of Hamatan haze out there. Maybe finally it's going to get cooler.
Yeah, it's a human right.
But today is Human Rights Day. 10th of December every year is celebrated as Human Rights Day, and it is to create awareness and mobilize political will to promote respect for the rights and freedoms enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. Yes, as far back as 1948. The theme for this year is dignity, freedom, and justice for all. To look at this with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Yomi Fawehime, Human Resource and Education Professional, who joins us via Zoom.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. And we also have joining us from our studios in Abuja, the Program Officer, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Amarachi Onyabo. Good morning.
Good morning.
As well as Adedeji Ajari, Director, Access to Justice. I hope I pronounced that name correctly. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, you did a very good job with it.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Let me begin with the lady. Well, don't they say ladies first?
Well, so we hear.
So, how would you describe Nigeria in terms of the respect for human rights as of today?
With regard to human rights today, Nigeria appears to be going a bit off course, and the government needs to come back to ensure the protection respect and fulfillment of the rights of its citizens, as evidenced in PLAC's 2022 Annual Human Rights Report. There's a lot to be done in terms of human rights violation issues. There are several violations across the country, and the report looks at these violations in regards to threats to personal freedom and shrinking civic space. And these affect the rights enshrined in Chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution, speaking to fundamental human rights. And we're calling, PLAC in that report called on the Nigerian government to take steps to ensure that it promotes the rule of law, and also take steps to address insecurity, because that is a big challenge for most of the rights under Chapter 4. Insecurity violates a lot of the rights under Chapter 4, as evidenced in that report. So there's a lot of work to be done with regard to human rights violation in Nigeria.
Well, it's interesting when you put it that way, Mr. Nyabo. When you say we need to come back home, so to speak, that seems like to be what you're saying. Well, Mr. Fawemi, it's not exactly what the United Nations says about Nigeria's human rights record, because according to the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, there has been some improvement in the human rights situation in the country compared to what obtained many years ago.
Thanks for that question, and I'm laughing because you asked me the question. You know, one of the beauty of history is the ability to look back and see what has happened. We came from very terrible human rights records under the military. I remember many years ago where in Nigeria, you know, when people talk about we have limited freedom, I used to ask people that, okay, so where's your reference point? Because there were times that news broadcasters like you were whisked from the studio straight to prison. We had a case where two broadcasters with Guardian, Tunde Thompson and Irabo, were jailed for issues that bordered on their right to freedom of expression. So that's where we're coming from, where it was so easy for people to be put to the gulag for any offense, including suspicion. We had a situation at a point where the chief of staff to the head of state at that point said national security is whatever the head of state considers to be national security. Many journalists, many human resource professionals, many Nigerians were mailed out at various ages just because they spoke against government. So that's where we're coming from. So we made some progress, and like the previous speaker said, we still have opportunities, but we're not coming from, we're moving in the right direction. Of course, the reality of it is that there'll be occasional times when people want to deviate and take us to the back. Like we had a recent case where a student was picked from a university in the north because of what he had written on Twitter about somebody not somebody in government, the wife of somebody in government, and was picked and whisked to Abuja. You have those situations, but part of the fact that we're making progress was there was a lot of talk online, and that made this person withdraw the case and the student was returned back to there. So that's part of the progress we are making. When people make those deviations, people talk about it and say, no, this is not where we're going, and there's a backup. Of course, we also remember that part of the progress is now we have a National Human Rights Commission in Nigeria, for example. I mean, that institution did not exist many years ago. That's part of the progress we are making. So we're making progress here and there. We had the NSAS crisis, and people talked about it, which was about abuse of human rights, and state governments and the federal government set up panels to investigate and to compensate as much as it's not perfect. It's a journey, right? Human rights is a journey, because beyond where you have to be every day.
That journey, well, there are many who would say the journey is taking way too long. I mean, just as you said, I mean, we're coming back from the days of a political impasse and more state-centric security as opposed to citizen-centric security. And those would also argue that one of the challenges, you know, of human rights in the country is because of its state-centricity as opposed to citizen-centricity. What would be your take on that?
You know, those concepts are real concepts, but at the end of the day, it comes back to the responsibility of each individual. You know, we had the time in this country, our police was called the Nigerian Police Force. When you say somebody is a member of a force, where are you discussing human rights with that person? You said he's in a force. That's what you called him. You didn't say it's in the service. And so it's not set up to render a police service to you. It's rendered to enforce something. And that's what we used to call Nigerian Police Force. That's where we're coming from. But well, those conversations have been had. So it's very true. Quite a lot of our state institutions are structured around the leaders, not even around the state, around the leaders who enforce those things. Also, part of it is also the fact that many times, many people in government in Nigeria, again, remember where we're coming from. We're coming from the concept of traditional rulers who we called Kabiyesi, for example, which in Yoruba language means somebody that cannot be questioned. So many people took on those roles believing that they cannot be questioned. So they created institutions, they created organizations that reinforce the Kabiyesi concept of leaders. Until date, we see our leaders who have that idea that they can't be questioned, they can't be corrected, and they can't be wrong. So that's part of where we are coming from. And the opportunity we have is for us to sustain that rule of democracy. One of the things I've always argued is the fact that it was the late Professor Kwadake that said you cannot have democracy without Democrats. What we have in Nigeria now is that we have democracy, but we don't have Democrats. So what we have now is that somebody will be willing to go for election because it's part of the tenets of democracy, but it's because he's not a Democrat, he's willing to buy votes. So we have people, for example, who are in power who still have this Kabiyesi concept and believe they cannot be questioned. And that's why those institutions will serve them and never serve the people.
Mr. Fawaini, you spoke about this journey and that we are moving gradually towards the goal, even though the movement is at snail pace. But let me just run this by you. A policeman goes to arrest someone in Nigeria, and it's not that they want to invite someone for questioning. They don't actually go there to invite. They actually go there to bully, and they beat, and they kick. And it is for the guy, I mean, it's like you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. Whereas in other crimes, it is innocent until proven guilty. So this journey of ours, is it taking all these into cognizance?
Well, great question. Again, that's why we said that this human rights issue is a journey, right? Just yesterday, one of the 4 policemen that were involved in the gruesome murder of George Floyd on the streets of Minnesota in the U.S. was jailed for 3 years, just yesterday. So the point is, the policing itself, it's one of the institutions that have been created over time that has been designed in various ways. So in Nigeria, we, for example, say our police is not citizen-centered. In other places, their complaint is that their police does not respect the rights of women or the respect of black people or the respect of colored people, as the case may be. So it comes back. And one of the things I always try to emphasize about human rights, that while it is human rights, it is also humans that need to respect those rights. So whether those humans are lecturers in a university or are policemen or are leaders or are parents or are teachers, it is those individuals that still need to respect the human rights of others. Because what happens is we have a situation where people talk a lot about human rights, expecting people to respect their own human rights, but they don't have a sense of obligation to respect the human rights of others. And that's where we have these contradictions, whether it's in policing or whatsoever.
Well, Mr. Fawemi, I'm going to come back to you in a bit, but let me ask Mr. Ajare this question around this same conversation on human rights. If you would, well, you may want to respond to some of the things that you heard, to begin with, Mr. Ajare. So, but looking at your assessment of our handling of human rights issues in the country so far, there are questions around, well, one of the things, of course, one of the ambit of human rights is the right to fairness, justice and all those things. So in terms of access to justice, thankfully you are Director Access to Justice. How would you say we fare with regards to access to justice as a human right?
Well, thank you so much for this question. First, I would tie this to the discourse around the improvements in our human rights situation in Nigeria generally. And without any doubt, we have witnessed some improvements over the past decades, especially as we have moved into civil rule after 1999. But then, I think it's important for us to also understand that what we have had is a situation where, as we, try to eradicate some violations, it appears like they are replaced by other violations. So, for instance, you will find that while maybe some of the things we experienced in terms of political rights under the military, while we're doing away with them and then we're advancing, and then the advent of, say, social media and the growth of the use of internet in Nigeria, of course, created a new problem, and then you now have a situation where you have citizens using these means to communicate grievances and communicate their displeasure with government. And then you have governments repressing these things. And so you now have an incursion into the civic space, a new problem. And that, of course, is indicative of, for instance, what happened last year when the Nigerian government, after a tweet by the Nigerian president was deleted by Twitter, and then the Nigerian government went all out and then decided to ban the use of Twitter in Nigeria. Of course, that has now been decided by the ECOWAS court as being unconstitutional, and the court has also demanded for, amongst other things, a guarantee of non-repetition. So you would find that, yes, we are making some progress, but sometimes we take 2 steps forward and then 1 backward. So at the end of the day, we appear to be in a cycle. However, in terms of access to justice generally in Nigeria, yes, there are improvements to the extent that people now have more avenue to express grievances. And I think, okay, perhaps what will be a source of concern for people should be perhaps access to legal aid services, most importantly, because you will find that most of the times victims of human rights violations are indigent persons who cannot afford the services of a lawyer and the cost of litigation. And when you look at the sheer number of violations that occur in the country daily, you will find that when you compare that with the number of, say, lawyers that offer pro bono legal services, it's still quite inadequate. And so, yes, there is need for us to make more and more progress. The fundamental human rights, fundamental rights enforcement procedure rules intended, it is clear that the intentions of the makers of the rules was to actually make it easy for persons who believe that their rights have been violated to access the courts. But it appears again that our judges are not as progressive as judges, for instance, in other jurisdictions. For instance, in India, where they have the same fundamental rights enforcement procedure rules, the courts there have held that a litigant or a person who complains of violation of his right can come with as much as a mere patch of paper with a complaint, and it will be heard. But we're still restricted by a lot of technicalities in our courts today.
Perhaps
and so
that
you
also
find a lot of cases that go on and on and on and are eventually thrown out.
Yeah, Mr. Jari, perhaps that speaks to the practitioners in the field. By the way, I mean, when you talked about the fact that government, clamped down on a particular social media platform, you would also know that there are countries in the world where certain platforms that are popular in Nigeria are not allowed at all in some other countries. I mean, the nationals of those countries haven't said, cried wolf, for instance.
Are those democracies?
And, well, some of them are democracies in their own right. at the end of the day, they have people living among them. So perhaps one can say it depends on the government of the day and what the people agree to that they would go with. But you may want to respond to that as well. But speaking to the practice of justice or judiciary, okay, I'll come to Ms. Onyabo in a moment. But speaking to the system of accessing justice, is it the people, the rules, or the practitioners who we need to, who we need to dust up, or what we need to tinker with? And what role has government to do in that? You've talked about three people. You've talked about the practitioners, you've talked about the processes, you've talked about the people who bring the cases to the judiciary. At what point do we have issues that we need to tinker with?
Thank you. I would address first the issue that you raised regarding some countries that do not even allow certain platforms, social media platforms at all. And I would say, you see, the concept of human rights is universal. In fact, that is what the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So if you have countries where they have repressive laws that do not allow its citizens to enjoy some of these rights, I do not think we should emulate them in Nigeria. Those are not the countries we should emulate. And like some people have said, if we want to do that, perhaps we would go the whole hog and probably emulate some of these countries in implementing death penalties, for instance, for corruption-related cases, but I'm sure we would not want to go there. So we should not emulate countries who are not doing the things that are right, and it is not right for countries to stop their citizens from enjoying their right to freedom of expression and freedom of information. However, now going to your main question now as regards access to justice. Now, you see, at the end of the day, all actors have a role or the other to play. And I'll start first with the government. Government must, of course, it is part of its sworn duty, sworn responsibility under the Universal Declaration for Human Rights and under the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights and a lot of other international instruments to educate its citizenry on their rights, these rights that are contained in these instruments that we have spoken about earlier. Government must do that. It must make its citizens aware of the opportunities they have to air their grievances and to seek redress and seek justice in the courts and through other channels. That's one. The judiciary must also learn to be more progressive in its outlook towards issues like this. So, for instance, you have a situation where a citizen has come to allege that, my husband was arrested by DSS in the middle of the night from our home, and look, I don't know where he is. And then he goes to court, and then she goes to court, and then DSS simply comes to say, we don't know his whereabouts, we don't have his whereabouts, and that's all. I think we must leave that era and go to an era where the court asks that DSS should positively demonstrate, positively by bringing evidence now that it does not have that person in its custody. Because when you look at the balance of powers, that citizen does not have the powers to prove its case as against the DSS that has all of the facilities, all of the funding, all of the tools and devices with which it can make its case. Now, beyond that, we also need to now go to lawyers. A lot more lawyers need to open up and start making legal aid services available to citizens. Wow. And yes, I understand that the economy is making a lot of lawyers shy away from providing pro bono legal services. But then that is, I think, what should be part of the primary duties of a lawyer. And so maybe the Nigerian Bar Association has a lot more role to play in there in terms of conscientizing its members to take some of these actions. And then as regards the citizens, of course, we have already said government must educate, and when they do, citizens must take advantage. They must become conscientized. They must take advantage of all of these opportunities that are available to them. And I think if we do that, we're going to make a lot more progress. Like Mr. Farimi said earlier, perfection may not come so soon. In fact, I do not think we're going to have a utopia, a human rights utopia. But we must constantly and consistently seek to improve the human rights situations at every point in time.
Mr. Onyabo, we cannot talk human rights without discussing the inalienable rights of human beings to associating, their right to association. And we know that for instance, if any group is planning a protest, they have to go and get permission from law enforcement agencies, one or two of them. And in certain cases, that permission was denied. What are your thoughts about that?
Going back to my point on shrinking civic space, like you rightly said, people have the right to associate, people have the right to assemble for whatever common interests that they have. But the way the Nigerian context is at the moment, it seems like there's a government clampdown on what it perceives as criticism. So like you rightly said, sometimes you go to the security agencies to get permission and you don't get it because anything that is seen as maybe criticizing the government in some way and there's a clampdown, that's the reaction you get. And we have the classic example of the NSAS protests from 2020, and 2 years after, some of the demands of the protesters that the government said it was going to meet are still unmet, and some people are still in custody just because they came out to protest. So there's that clampdown, and the government needs to be able to provide a safe space for individuals and organizations to come together to express whatever issues they have with the government, and then the government should respond by engaging rather than clamping down. But we don't really have that. That is what we have seen in recent times, and a lot of work really needs to go into that to free up civic space and to allow people to assemble, to allow people to protest, to allow people to engage, and to tell the government the ways in which it can improve in its conduct.
Okay. Mr. Fawaimi, you are an educationist, so of course your interest lies mainly in the area of human rights in the workplace. That I work for you, does that make me your slave and you can push me around as you like and hit me because I work for you? Mr. Fawaimi?
Part of what the Nigerian constitution says, thanks for that question, ma. The workplace is a hotbed for human rights. And the reason is because in a workplace, all the fundamental human rights are supposed to be respected in addition to the workplace rights. So, I mean, there seems to be like two general broad categorization of human rights now. There's what is called the fundamental human rights, typically enshrined in the constitution, typically justiciable and enforceable in court. But now there are other sets of rights now that are usually called socio-economic rights, of which labor rights is one of them. So, for example, based on our constitution, based on Nigerian signing to the various ILO conventions, for example, the right to form a union has become a fundamental, it has become a justiciable right. So I have a right to join a union. I also have a right to engage in collective bargaining. And you know, the theme for today is about dignity. I also have a right to dignity of a person in the workplace. So, for example, there are certain jobs you can't give a human being to do based on the general definition of the word dignity. Somebody cannot be put under forced labor. Actually, our constitution clearly states that. So you can't force anybody to work for you. So, for example, if somebody decides to resign today, I say, I have attended my letter of resignation. You don't have a right to say, you know, in Nigeria, they'll say, we don't accept your resignation. In our laws, you don't accept resignation. You are told, I have resigned, and I'm gone. There's nothing, when an employee says, I'm going, he's gone. That's the right he has in the workplace. There are also rights in the workplace that is based on gender. Part of it are the issues around gender parity, around equal work for equal pay. It's now become a right. It's also now become a right that you can't just sack people the way you like. If you sack them or you ask them to go and you write them a letter, which the law says you should do, you must state the reason why you are asking them to go, and they can contest it in court. We actually had like 3 recent cases in Nigeria where we had for the first time a sexual harassment case in a workplace was brought to court and it was won because the person that was harassed, and then so we have those plethora of justice. But you know, one of the beautiful things, and I mean, as the previous speaker was talking about access to justice for the workplace, part of the improvement, because again, we can choose to look at the positives, right? Part of the improvements is, for example, we now have a national industrial court, a court dedicated to workplace and labor issues. So it's part of this access to justice. Before now in Nigeria, if you had a case against your employer, you go and queue up at the High Court, and that can take years. But now with the dedicated courts, it's better, and they are making great pronouncements. One of the very recent ones is around a case on pregnancies, where somebody was laid off, and this lady was pregnant, and the lady went to court to argue that pregnancy is related to my gender, which is being female. Therefore, if I'm sacked because I'm pregnant, it's discrimination. And she brilliantly worked the case because the court held, and rightly so, that pregnancy is related to it. There are also issues of health. There is one of the biggest banks in Nigeria, actually one of the oldest banks in Nigeria, started an interview process with somebody, and then they went to do the medical, and then they realized the person was HIV/AIDS positive. And this bank said it was not going to continue. And the person went to court to say that because of the fact that there was a law signed by the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, that you can't discriminate against me because of my HIV status. And it won in court. Actually, the bank appealed to settle out of court and paid them a huge compensation. So the workplace has a set of laws that is dynamic, that the Nigerian Industrial Court is expanding. And it's important for employers of labor to do that. Part of it is to be paid for the money.
Mr. Fawemi, just a second. That's not to say, because there's something you said the other time, that at the end of the day, it's got to do with the people themselves. And I think, it's something that I'd like to take Mr. Ajari on. I mean, we've been speaking, Mr. Ajari, about what government needs to do, what the authorities need to do, what the judicial system needs to do. But at the end of the day, it's about people. It is people that incur into other people's rights. Road use, for instance, there is a path that is supposed to go, the roads, vehicles are supposed to go. Anyone driving against that traffic is against the law and is against the human rights of other people. I know that you have spoken to the fact that people need to be conscientized about human rights, and all of that. This issue is not new. How do we exactly go about this? Because it seems like it's a lot more to do with culture than rules, regulations, and laws. What would be your take on how we approach this, particularly from the local levels?
Right, thank you. You see, you in your question, you have actually hinted at what is primarily the issue. It's culture, really. A lot of, and when we say culture, we're not even looking at, we're looking at our habits, our attitudes developed over time. First, we have a situation here where there's a lot of frustration out here. People have lost confidence in our judicial system and our criminal justice system. And so you find a lot of people who do not want to take cases, for instance, to courts, and would rather settle the issues either through self-help, what we call jungle justice today. And it is because there will be allegations that, previous, for instance, suspects that were caught and arrested and handed over to law enforcement and security agencies were found walking free weeks after with no repercussions. So people would rather handle the issues out here without even taking them to the proper regular courts of law or the law enforcement agents. Now that's one. Beyond that, of course, people also find that, look, it's frustrating seeking justice in our system. So you have, for instance, a case of rape. There is a case of rape of a minor that has been on since 2017. And till date, only until a few weeks ago was the hearing commenced. And there were a lot of issues, including change of judges, including transfers, and so many issues. And now, in the course of the whole trial, one or two persons who should have served as witnesses either died or relocated and could not come back to come and testify. This has frustrated the mother of the minor so much that she has lost confidence. And in fact, she has asked that the matter be withdrawn. There are similar cases all over the place. So a lot of these things are factors. There are issues that eventually become that, that make people lose confidence in the system, and eventually they either take the laws into their hands, resorting to self-help, or because we're very religious people, you find a lot of people say, look, I leave it to God. I leave it to God. And that attitude, that culture is what we need to actually now attack. And like you said, from the grassroots. And therefore, it will take a lot, all hands must be on deck to get this done, including the government, including traditional leaders, including religious leaders. Everybody must start, conscientizing people, educating people, making them see the need for them to seek justice through the appropriate measures, and to be patient and be persistent, because we have also seen cases that took quite a long time, but eventually justice, though delayed, was eventually delivered. And it may be worth the while at the end of the day. In many cases, it will be worth the while. So people must learn to also be persistent in seeking for justice through the proper channels.
Mr. Yabo, how much advocacy is going on with law enforcement people? I ask this because I know of someone who was arrested, and the grounds for the arrest was, and I quote, too much knowing his rights. So, how aware are they that even though you think I'm a criminal, I do have some rights, and until my case is proven in court, I am innocent. So you can't say you are arresting me because I am telling you my rights.
I would say
No, that question is for Mr. Onyabo.
The way I see it, at access to justice.
It's for Mr. Onyabo, Mr. Ajari.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so with regard to advocacy in relation to security forces, I think that there's just need for holistic reorientation of all the security agencies, really. In 2020, a new Police Act was assented to by the president, and it provides so many wonderful human rights safeguards. However, I think there needs to be like detailed training for security agencies on human rights protection. It's a culture thing, like Mr. Ajari discussed. It's about people, really. I think Nigeria has so many good laws, but implementing those laws has been a challenge over time. And it goes back to both the people, the government, and the security agencies that are responsible for enforcing our laws to also take time to be reoriented, all of us, even Nigerians, knowing our rights as well. Even though he said that someone was arrested and by the police for knowing a lot of his rights, that is wrong, really. So I think it's an orientation issue, and citizens and the government are need to be ready to unlearn everything that's the culture, the norm that we have been going through with this past years, and imbibe what is proper and the correct way of doing things, and apply due process in all our procedures and our conducts.
Well, Mr. Onyabo, I'm going to stay with you for a bit.
May I also add a word in that regard?
You will, Mr. Ajari, but let me follow up quickly on something for Mr. Onyabo. I mean, your report, for instance, says one key finding made is that Nigeria is going through a period of great economic difficulties that have formed the backdrop or often provided the impetus for many of the rights violations that happen in the country. Perhaps it might help to try to narrow down what sector your report or your findings say is where our human rights are most bedeviled. Let me give you an instance. And this is something the police, for instance, have been doing for a long time, trying to conscientize people and educate them. And look, these are the things that a policeman can ask you. A policeman cannot ask you for this, but they can ask you for this. Anyone that asks you for something that they're not supposed to ask you, I mean, is not in line with the law. But you also, of course, honed it in by saying that sometimes people don't even know their rights. Yes, some people know their rights too much. But sometimes some people don't even know their rights, you know, and all of that. So how do we approach this? I know Mr. Jare spoke about us, you know, getting more knowledge of our rights and all of those things. But in a situation where people don't know their rights and there is an attempt to, you know, run over them simply because they don't know their rights, what do the people do?
Okay, so I'll take your first question on the report on the economic downturn in Nigeria at the moment. There's increased government spending and borrowing, and our revenues are plunging, and we have a foreign exchange rate crisis. We're seeing high levels of unemployment and of poverty. So this is what the country looks like at the moment. And with these conditions, then the next thing you see is increasing crime rates, which is feeding into this widespread insecurity that we're seeing today. And in that regard, you see that it's the economic crisis. In the backdrop of the economic crisis, human rights concerns are exacerbated. And if you have a good number of people, number of citizens who are living in poverty like this, for instance, I'm just connecting this to your next question. These people don't even care about human rights at this point. These people are just trying to make ends meet. And with regard to the economic situation, the Plaque's call to the government is to manage the economy better, because in section 14 of the Constitution, subsection 2, paragraph B, it says that the welfare and the security of the people would be the primary purpose of government. So these two are intertwined. And when you have this economic situation, this economic downturn, then invariably it's going to feed into insecurity as well. And it's also the responsibility of the government to secure the lives and the property of its citizens. So if you're looking at people who you have the right to life, you're alive, but what is the quality of life that you're living today? And if that is the state and condition in which people find themselves, then you can also see how knowledge of their rights are not the major things on their minds at that moment. So about sensitizing people on their rights, I think we also need a conducive environment where things are working well, where people have access to the means of livelihood, to adequate means of livelihood. And in that scenario, I see people who are going from just trying to survive daily to being interested in knowing how they should associate and what their other rights are. We spoke, the National Orientation Agency is also there. It could also help with things like this. We have many organizations working on human rights protection in Nigeria, and I'm sure they produce different materials, different awareness materials. But I still take the stand that many Nigerians are living in not so good conditions, and I don't think the first thing on their minds right now are their rights.
Well, I think you even delineated it already by saying what we have in the Constitution is right to life. Right to quality life, maybe that is subjective. Unfortunately. Well, let's take your closing moments now, ladies and gentlemen. And let me begin with, and of course, Mr. Jare, maybe that will be your own last word, the one that you wanted to add the other time. So let me begin with you, Mr. Jare. Your last comments.
Okay. Thank you. So I was going to just speak regarding educating not just the citizen, like you said, of course, even the officers themselves. And at Access to Justice, in the past 2-3 years, we have trained over 1,000 police officers on human rights and more particularly the rights of suspects. The rights of suspects. However, most of these people have been the officers on the lower rung of the ladder, because the thinking had been that these are the people who have the direct interaction with the people. They are the first contact that the people usually have. They are the ones who arrest. They are the ones who investigate. And that's what we've been doing.
Okay.
However, in my opinion, in the past week, I started thinking that perhaps we have been getting it wrong. Perhaps we need to start focusing on actually training and educating the top officers, really. Because something happened last week. The director general
Mr. Jare,
of the DSS
it's supposed to be your last word, and it's sounding like another lecture altogether. But maybe what we'll do is call you up some other time to have this. But I think the point has been made. We should not only focus on those on the lower rung of the ladder, but to speak to those at the top as well. Mr. Fawemi, your last words.
I think I just want to reiterate the importance of we as human beings, understanding our rights, and secondly, respecting the rights of others. I think it's when this two happens that we're going to have progress in terms of human rights.
It's one thing to know your rights, and another thing to understand it. Great one.
Mr.
Marachi Onyabo, your last words.
Okay, I'm just going to say that the Nigerian government needs to really tackle insecurity, because insecurity breeds a lot of human rights violation, especially fundamental human rights. And as such, it should not just say that it is tackling the issue of insecurity, but it must be seen by the people, it must be perceived by the people to be tackling this issue. And that is the only way to restore the confidence of Nigerians in the ability of its government to keep people safe and keep their property safe.
Thank you very much. Amarachi Onyabo, Program Officer, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. We also had in our Abuja studio with Ms. Onyabo, Adedeji Ajare, Director, Access to Justice. And we had Mr. Yomi Fawayim, who joined us via Zoom. Mr. Fawayim is a human resource and education professional. Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen, for coming to share your insights with us this morning on this very important topic on this day being Human Rights Day. Thank you very much.
I've heard what you have to say. What I have to do is in my heart.
So back after now, take a break, and we'll be back for more. Stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Cybersecurity awareness is what is next on our lineup today. As of June this year, statistics show that there were 2.4 million total cases, including victims of fraud, identity theft, and other reports. The first quarter of 2022 recorded about 1.237 million reports, followed by 1.132 million in the second quarter. Is that to say that the thing has started coming down? Don't answer the question.
Small.
So, identity theft was the most reported issue in 2021. What does that all come to? Please welcome with us this morning Apumere Igboah, who is chairman of the Chief Information Security Officer Committee of Nigeria, CISO, or is it KISO?
No, CISO.
CISO. All right. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
It's a whole lot of things, right? But speak to that introduction that we had before we go into the other issues.
The stats?
Yeah. Should we be scared?
Identity theft was 25% of all the reports received.
Okay, so
first of all, what is identity theft?
So exactly. That's what I was going to get to. All right, thank you. Okay. So identity theft, basically, it's just a technique in which an individual's identity is being taken over maliciously. And when we say maliciously, someone impersonates you and pretends to be you by stealing your personal information or stealing sensitive information in which you require to perform certain financial-based transactions. And that person then carries out those transactions on your behalf. Basically, where there are issues, it comes back thinking that you are actually the one who perpetrated the crime. So it's somebody trying to pretend to be you in a digital way. Let me put it that way.
So if someone, for instance, on any of these social media platforms uses your picture and uses a wrong name, that is identity theft or what?
No, so basically what happens is the person takes your own name, takes your own picture, pretends to be you, and starts communicating with some of the people that you are close to, friends or folks, and try to get, it's actually for financial gains most of the time.
Pretending to be you.
Pretending to be you, yeah.
So I am guessing that one of the ways of addressing that is what your organization calls social engineering?
No. So social engineering, identity theft is also part of the whole social engineering scheme. So social engineering, it's actually a method in which the fraudsters or the malicious individuals, what they do is they take advantage of certain weaknesses within humans, vulnerabilities within humans, and exploit them by collecting their personal information or trying to gain access to critical systems so that they can be able to create some bit of harm, or they can actually make some financial gains as a result of that whole process. So there are different, social engineering is like a buzzword, but you have different ways or different techniques that are involved in social engineering. Yeah.
Such as?
Yeah, so one of them is the very common and popular one. It's called phishing. So phishing, it's
not F-I-S-H.
No.
Okay.
So phishing is spelled as P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean for the Niger Delta person, it's different.
It's different.
Okay. Please, that's where I'm wrong. So I thought it was F-I.
No.
With my book.
All right. So what phishing really does, it uses a very common way in which we communicate, which is emails. So what they do is they will send very well-crafted emails and try to make the information look like it's genuine and legitimate. And basically what they're trying to do is force you to respond with certain types of critical information that they can use to actually perpetrate cyber crimes. Another way is they also send links. And they ask you to click on links. Now that when you click on those links, a link takes you to a website where you can they now try to harvest information from you. Yeah. So these are different forms. You also have other forms which we call smishing. So smishing is spelled as S-M-I-S-H-I-N-G, and smishing is actually the text form.
Okay.
So they send SMS messages to you. Some of the most recent ones we see is on the COVID relief. They'll tell you you've won some COVID relief funds.
Or now campaign season.
Yes, exactly.
We will pay you 89,000.
Exactly, something like that. Then they
promise to vote for.
Yeah, so they put a contact number and ask you to reach out to that contact number. So when you call, then they have that opportunity to interact with you and then take the scheme for
What's the one? I will go to the next one. What's that one? What do you call the one where they hack your WhatsApp?
Oh, okay. So, so we call that angler fishing.
Oh dear God.
You are angling and you're fishing.
So angler is...
And both of them mean fishing.
Yeah, they're both fishing. So angler fishing is actually A-N-G-L-E-R.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and basically what they do is they create fake social media pages and ask you to interact with them. By interacting with them, they get information in which they can then go and take over your own social media handle and then start to engage your
and then there is vision.
Content, yeah. Yeah, then vision. Vision is the voice part of it.
When they actually call
when
you.
When they call you, they pretend to be calling from some customer care
yes.
center and all that.
I got one from a bank, from my bank, right yesterday.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Are you the one trying to withdraw money from, you have your ATM card with you? And the person's voice was so suspicious.
Oh. Yeah, but I think some of the key indicators where you know that it's actually somebody trying to be funny, it's when they start asking you for very sensitive information. They're asking you for account number. Your bank knows your account, so they shouldn't be asking you first. Yeah, asking you for account number, asking you for BVN, or asking you to share some security code. So when you start having those kind of conversations over the phone, then you know you're not dealing with your bank.
Okay, so there's also pretexting and then there is baiting. What are those? Run through those very quickly.
Okay, so in terms of baiting is actually where they try to lure you. So they most times baiting is used when they want to be a bit destructive. So we have where they try to run some malicious application or code on your system. So what they will do is try to entice you to go and click on a download an infected document or run some application installation on your system. So they try to create those kind of techniques to lure you in there. So pretexting is when the person tries to gain your trust over time before he goes into the
before he hits you.
So he would either try to pretend that he knows one of your uncle and actually calls your uncle's name so that he tries to be as legitimate and win your trust as much as possible.
Or the famous prince from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Now, you also have on the. I'm hoping, because we really don't have so much time, but I'd love for us to cover. We've spoken quite, copiously about identity theft, and I think we'll be done with that already. But if you can go to these stolen devices, the question around stolen devices, what happens when a phone, let me not say your phone, when a phone or a device is stolen? Now, in this day and age where, the federal government, the CBN, everyone is talking about going digital, your limits on cash withdrawal and all, it means that you do a lot more digitally now on your phone, on your tablets, on your laptops and things like that.
Yeah.
So what happens if there is some vulnerability in terms of you losing your phone or device or all of that?
Okay.
It seems like you literally lost your bank. That's what it sounds like, right?
Yeah. Okay, so all right, so I'll run through the basic things that should be done. And really today, because we've moved, the shift is to digital. What that means is that you now have your bank accounts easily on your mobile device, and you're moving around
and
with
your passwords
and your password there. So it's not advisable to store your passwords. So, but what it means is you have your bank sitting in your hands, in your palms. So what we advise is, because when your phones are missing, what they are really interested in, it's access to the SIM, because the SIM it's your identity to your bank account. So what we advise the public and our customers is basically go a step further, put a lock on your SIM. So I'm not worried if my phone gets stolen tomorrow, because there's a lock on my SIM. So if you try to access my SIM, you to ask for some passcode, and then you can gain access to my accounts.
Quickly, how does the viewer watching you now put a lock on their SIM now?
Okay, so basically, what do you do from it differs, but basically it's you go to the settings of your phone. You either go under privacy or under security. You'll be asked to activate your SIM locks in one of those options. Yeah.
I advise that you do that right away. Those of you who don't know about that one, so they go to the any device, Android, iOS,
privacy and security.
So go under privacy or security, whichever one it is, and then
you would say activate SIM, you either say passwords or passcode activate SIM lock.
Activate SIM lock.
Yeah.
So if you have only one number, do it now. In the interest of peace and stability. I can't shout. So you were saying something. Go ahead. So that's one step, right?
Yeah, that's one step. The other step is where we advise customers to have what we call multi-factor authentication. Now, multi-factor authentication, it's like
not just two-way.
Yeah, it's a second level authentication to your account. So other than your default username and password, you go a step further. You are asked to introduce another security code or phrase just to make sure that before you can then gain access to your account. We've seen that with username and passwords, because of the phishing techniques, it's easy to actually lure most times uneducated customers or the public users to be able to reveal that first level information. So we ask them to introduce other forms of authentication. Yeah.
Mr. Ibua, generally, people forget things.
Yeah.
One of the first things that people forget easily is the password.
I agree.
So, help us. What do we do?
Yeah.
Donors, of course, we know that for those who are aware, if you are using any of these websites, or of course, naturally, you have an email account on your phone, it stores your passwords and all of those things, so that in case you forget, I think those ones actually even encourage you to forget. So, what do you do?
Okay, so I think the feedback there is, in storing passwords, we don't encourage users to store passwords. And basically
to store them in the phone.
In the phone, yeah.
Store them somewhere else.
Yeah, somewhere else. So you have other secured ways. So they've got password management tools that provide secure means of storing passwords. But what we then advise is use things like hardware tokens. So that's where the second level authentication comes in. So other than your password, you have something physical that you can always go and it will give you some codes that you can use to gain access to your
devices.
Yeah.
What about the app lock?
Okay.
Can you not store your passwords in your app lock in your phone?
Okay,
is that easy to hack into?
No, it's not that easy. But at the end of the day, because there are more sophisticated ways in which devices are being hacked today. Yeah, we don't really encourage those things. But you have what we call like cloud-based password managers, so which sits outside the device.
Yeah.
So we always encourage that if you have to store those type of information in a much more secure place, store them not in one central location, but something outside your device. Yeah.
But I've noticed that more and more phones are asking or using face recognition.
Yeah.
So how easy is it for somebody else to fake my face and hack into my phone?
Okay, so when it comes to face recognition, because the industry is not as matured enough to accept that form of authentication today, what we are doing now is we are actually getting there because now we are building systems that will be able to do that. So there are a lot of banks now trying to adopt that form of authentication. But in terms of the challenge there is, because it's your face, most times when we see the fraud issues that occur, there's always a relationship with the owner of the account.
Wow.
Do you get what I'm saying? So you then see that people who are closest to you, who can easily have access to those devices, probably when you are sleeping or something. So it's also a difficult position to just say this is a direct way to address the problem. Rather, what we've done is make sure that there are options available to you based on your current situation. You determines what option is best for you manage your security. Yeah.
You know, I think we've spoken, we've touched on the password and PIN management as well. But, you know, it's so easy for people to get passwords they can remember.
Yeah.
So, but when you are suggesting you put exclamation mark at pound, dollar, percent, and then that other one that looks like that, and I mean, give us, is there a simple guide to how people can get complex passwords? Is there a guide?
Yeah, there is most financial providers today on their websites or the platforms they build always provide those guides. So what we regularly advise is in terms of the length of the password. We'd say it should not be anything less than 8 letters. It could be digits, so it's alphanumeric. We also advise that you at least one of the letters is in caps. Then we ask you to use symbols so that then that kind of skews it, because if we look at the different techniques that are out there to what they call brute force. So brute force means they actually attack the system to crack and provide get access to the password. So we because of the ease in which those things are being done today, doing complex passwords will make it quite difficult for you to be able to get access.
You know, we could go on and on this, Mr. Ibua, but as you can see, we are completely out of time. I want to believe that we're going to have this conversation again.
Yes, we will.
It's that serious. It's become, you know, technology has become a lifestyle now, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
For now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation. Abumere Ibua is chairman of the Chief Information Security Officers Committee of Nigeria. Thank you again for being here.
All right, thank you.
So if you have not done that SIM lock thing, please do it now, while we take this break and prepare for the next segment. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's move our focus from fishing and smashing and smishing, you know, all those things. Let's move the focus to the hospital now. Let's move it to orthopedic medicine.
But even that is fishing.
Is it fishing?
Yes, because they have to fish for whatever the problem is, and then they take it out. Surgeons.
The poor surgeon in the studio is perplexed. Challenges of power generation, old infrastructure, fluctuating foreign exchange rates, and lack of specialist doctors, nurses, and other health workers due to brain drain are some of the problems facing public health facilities in Nigeria today. The National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, is a tertiary health institution established on December 6th, 1945. Yes, it's that old. To provide orthopedic, traumatology, and burns, plastic and reconstructive surgical services to all Nigerians and neighboring countries in one of the facilities having these challenges. It's my pleasure to welcome the consultant orthopedic surgeon, head clinical services at the National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, Dr. Oluwaseyi Idowu.
Good morning, ma'am. Thanks for having me. Good morning.
For a moment, I mistook orthopedic surgeon for orthopediatrician. I thought that should be the... Forgive me, I didn't know.
So what are orthopedics?
Okay, so orthopedics has to do with the treatment of any deformity or disease of the skeletal system. As you can see, it's quite broad.
Bone,
muscles, tendons, ligaments.
Oh, tendons.
So anything that affects the musculoskeletal system, you may find that it falls within the purview of orthopedics itself.
Muscles?
Yeah, muscles, tendons, ligaments, anything that composes the musculoskeletal system that makes you move and function. Things that, any derangement of that may require orthopedic intervention. That could be surgery, it could be other forms of therapy. That's where it's necessary.
There have been huge advances in orthopedics in recent times. Can you just highlight a few of the major ones for us?
Okay, so it's very interesting. I mean, it is an area of medicine that's got a long history, more than 100 years. Modern orthopedics as its practice, I'll say a lot of it evolved.
The Blade Runner.
Oh, right. So you remember that, the gentleman from South Africa. Okay. Now, the modern orthopedics has evolved rapidly, I'll say, in the last 60 years or thereabout. And what has changed is the subspecialty focus in orthopedics itself. So gone are the days where one orthopedic surgeon is treating all the whole body problems, but people have now gone to train in different parts. There are people who fix just joints and they look after joint problems, like in a field called arthroplasty. The people who, some of my colleagues who do small mini keyhole surgery, they put camera and they're able to fix problems in various parts of the body. There's arthroscopy and sports medicine at these days. The orthopedic surgeons who are focused on children, just like you were asking, maybe that's what you meant by orthopediatrician.
I don't know.
There are orthopedic surgeons who are just focused on diseases of children's skeletal problems. So everyone, some sort of devotes more time to it to learn that and get it better. Of course, you can have bone and joint cancers as well. So not that all those areas of specialties have gradually evolved to make sure that the treatment is optimal.
Well, what would you say, Dr. Idowu, that is 15 years before Nigeria's independence, we've had Igbobi Hospital. I mean, that's definitely something. But what would you say over the years, or maybe a generation or every decade, would be the most prevalent orthopedic cases we have had in the country?
So, as you know, we have problems with our roads. So trauma is a major burden in this environment. So trauma, I would say, still accounts for a large portion of the diseases we see. Trauma and its complications.
What do you mean by trauma?
So trauma means anything that can cause injury to the body. And of course, your whole body can be involved depending on the extent of the injury. So you can sustain various sort of injuries, complex injuries that affect people from especially road traffic accidents, which appears to be the most common mechanism of injury that we see locally in Nigeria.
So trauma is the main thing, or is the...
So that is a common mode of presentation. But of course, we're not immune to other diseases of the skeleton. So you still have problems with growing children. Children are prone to infection. Older people, for some other reasons, are prone to bone infection. So when you get bone infection, then it's a big challenge to treat. You've got to go to the right place to get it eradicated. Even that is difficult.
Is that what you all call osteoporosis?
That is actually osteomyelitis.
Osteomyelitis,
yes.
Okay.
Osteoporosis is when you have demineralization of the bone quality is not adequate for various reasons. It's more common in the older age group, in the elderly people. For some factors, as you say.
So then, since you have chosen to go there, you've spoken about the bone. The bone is not as it should be. How does a human ensure that the quality of bones in his body is up to scratch?
Okay, first and foremost, there are risk factors for developing osteoporosis. One of those risk factors is a certain age group, women who are postmenopausal, because you lose some hormones who are supposed to that usually build up the bone at a certain age in one's lifetime. There's a decline in that, and then you're more predisposed to that. As you grow older, all of us, even in men, you tend to lose the quality of the bone. So there are things that you could do. You could make sure you don't have a sedentary lifestyle. Of course, good diet as it is, a good exposure to the sun.
What do you mean by good diet?
Good diet rich in vitamins and calcium and minerals. So for people who eat a lot of meals that are rich, maybe seafood, for instance, or you drink milk or you eat egg, those are good sources of calcium, for instance. So at least you've taken care of a balanced diet as it is. Some people are still predisposed to it in spite of having good diets. That's because you're having problems with absorption of the minerals itself. Of course, what you do in that case is for people to get checked out properly. There are investigations that we tend to do to ascertain the quality of the bone. There's something called a DEXA scan, and it shows the picture. It tells you whether you're below the cutoff, the optimal level, or whether you're where you should be. And of course, there are a lot of things that your doctor can advise depending on what is the cause of the osteoporosis.
You know, doctor, we might be undulating between your hospital and the issues that you treat because, yes, I mean, one way or the other, we're trying to celebrate the fact that the National Orthopedic Hospital in Lagos has been on for how many years now?
77 years.
77 years. Yeah. Wow. That's quite something. You know, but that's not to say that there haven't been, of course, I mean, over the years there's been expansion, scope of services have expanded, and as you have mentioned, some specialties or specializations here and there in the industry. How well kitted then would you say the National Orthopedic Hospital is to handle some of these issues? Some of them we may discuss, some of them we will not get to today.
Okay, in terms of being well catered, I think without being mincing words, it's probably still one of the most equipped centers in the country in terms of taking care of orthopedic problem as it is. I mean, there are a few other major centers in the country, and there are private hospitals that have sprung up now who are dedicated to the treatment of orthopedic problem. But in terms of how well equipped, I think in terms of manpower, we've had a lot of manpower, people who have gone abroad. The training program in the country itself has improved a great deal in the last, I'll say, 20 years. I can say that it's probably almost at par in terms of training that you get, and if you go abroad anyway. The real challenge is a challenge of the country itself. Funding issues, of course, late presentations. People don't tend to come when they should, and it makes the treatment more difficult, makes it more complex compared to...
When you say funding issues, yes, what are you talking about?
So, as you know, the hospital is owned by the federal government of Nigeria, and as you know, kudos to this particular government. In actual fact, the capital release has improved, I think, in the last, I would say, about 6-7 years compared to previous government. But there is still a lot of gap in the funding that is required to develop the capacity. If you compare how much hospitals like Igbobi would probably get if they were, located somewhere in the West, for instance, you see that we're still far below what we should. What happens is that there are lots of projects that you want to bring up to improve the outcome that you can't actually accomplish over time. One of the things that's different in other places is a lot of private sector involvement. You get a lot of endowment. Rich people come and they just look at the hospital and say, look, what can I do for you? And I can do this for you over this certain number of years, which has done a lot for
Is that to say, Dr. Idowu, that the need for the National Orthopedic or orthopedic medicine, the services of orthopedic medicine is not appreciated, or it's not out there enough for people to see or know?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not appreciated. I think it's just that it's not enough. We're a country of 200 million people plus estimates. And if you look at, one of the things you mentioned is the number of manpower itself. So can the number of people trained cope with the demand of the populace? Nigeria probably has, at the last time on the list of the Nigerian Orthopedic Association, maybe we have about 400 or less than 500 qualified orthopedic surgeons in Nigeria.
400, let's say 450?
Let's say 450
Okay.
for a population of 200 million.
200 million people.
And I just,
how many cases, on the average, would you say your industry has to handle in a year?
Well, I won't put a figure to it, but how you appreciate the gravity of what the Nigerian doctor has to do is that for United States, for instance, that has a population maybe slightly more than us, 300 billion, has over 20,000 orthopedic surgeons. So 20,000 orthopedic surgeons coping with 300 billion. And if you look at the ratio in Nigeria, just about 500 people coping with 200 million, then it's quite a huge deficit in terms of the manpower.
Is it that it is not a popular field of study for doctors to specialize in?
It is quite popular, but you need to know that there are quite a number of Nigerian professionals who live abroad, even when they finish training. Every year, people migrate abroad. So long as you have
doctors
migrating, you're never going to have enough people to cope with the demand of our populace anyway. So
this is part. I assume that this is part of the funding issues you talked about.
Everything reverberates their efforts. I mean, if I would say the practice and the support at home is better, then maybe a lot of people would stay anyway. But it's a personal choice.
How do you put it out there that this hospital is there and requires help, so such that corporate bodies can now come in and offer their hand?
Okay, so thanks. We have a medical social service a unit in the hospital. We also have our own corporate affairs department, and kudos to them. They've done a lot in terms of reaching out to philanthropists out there. I don't want to mention name, but we have some regular philanthropists who've been very grateful to. I'm not sure I'm allowed to mention their names, but you do have Nigerians who in actual fact just walk in and they try to do a lot, but it's still not enough. You know, scratching the
because
surface.
I mean, part of what my colleague is talking about is around the image of the National Orthopedic Hospital. You forgive me for saying that. I mean, you look outside the facade, if I can use the term, of the National Orthopedic Hospital, that there are those who are wondering, is it still functional? Not that it is not functional, actively functional, which I'm aware of, but the look and feel of it. I mean, when you look at it on the outside, it's something that many people, might wonder, if it looks like this on the outside, what kind of service am I going to get on the inside? That's not to, say that the professionals are not doing excellently well. So are these issues known or unknown to the Federal Ministry of Health?
Well, I don't know what you mean by not too attractive. When was the last time you were at the gate, for instance?
Well,
what I notice about Nigerians is that and it is a culture with us. Whereas in some other parts of the world, people actually drive into hospital and they drive around and look around. People run away from hospitals in this country. So a lot of people just move on the corridor road and zoom off. I don't want to look at
See, the point I'm making is, I mean, if it looks good, I mean, you're even curious.
No, I think it's more of a cultural thing that you don't want to go into hospital.
Nobody wants to go into
I think it has improved, if you ask me, in the last, I would say, at least I can tell you about 15 years history. People who are senior to me, older to me, will probably tell you a longer history. Of course, there are lots of challenges in the country itself. So you look at our roads, you look at Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has been ongoing for 13 years. So everything reflects on the country, on the hospital itself. When the funding is not, like I keep telling you, not as you, even when you project and you think that this is what the hospital should be doing in 10 years, 15 years, you have to just manage what you have been appropriated, what the appropriation that has come from the owners of the hospital, which is the federal government of Nigeria. So, but that's not to say that there's a lot of improvement, and I would encourage everyone once in a while to just pop in and look around.
Okay, if I can, what are some of those risks that you can say that Nigerians take that makes their orthopedic health? Is that such a thing?
Orthopedic health, yes.
if they're orthopedic or whatever, their bones and muscle system, what are the things that we do to ourselves as Nigerians that put us in jeopardy?
Okay,
whether we know it or not.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. First thing is, of course, I don't know whether it's just our own within our control, our roads, and observing the traffic regulations, such that you drive down the incidence of accidents. And even when accidents happen, for instance, if you're wearing a seatbelt, you get less injured. Those things are meant to be protected. So those kind of culturally, driving well on our roads to reduce accidents. I think that is number one. Number two is that when it does happen, go to the right center. We still have a lot of problem with unorthodox practices, and a lot of the burden of what we see in our orthopedic practice in Nigeria are complications from unorthodox care. There are set guidelines that have been tried and tested all over the world in terms of taking care of the bone. When you have bone infection, it's devastating. It's very difficult to treat as it is. So you don't want to get that if you have an accident, for instance.
Yeah, since you brought up the issue of unorthodox treatment before they come to you guys, I mean, my mind just went to somebody has a sprain, a fracture, and they'll go to an EJOB person to do some work on it before they come to you. I mean, have you found in some cases that unorthodox treatments has actually helped? Do they help in any way?
Okay, the way I would answer this question is...
I'm not trying to railroad you.
No, I know, I understand you. We get asked all the time. So if you have a broken finger, and if anyone keeps it straight, just splint it with anything, it's likely to heal if it doesn't move out of position. But if you have a broken finger that has moved out of position, that is not a simple fracture, then it's not likely to heal unless you straighten it out properly and then find a good means to make sure that it's splinted. So in that case, the normal splint that you know, just like a cardboard, for instance, may not work anymore. And you then have to do maybe complex surgeries like using pins to hold it and watch until it's healed in that position. So the question about it's a tradition. It's something that they've done over the years. But don't forget that even the Europeans started that way more than 200 years ago until things became refined and all that. And of course, if what I say to some of my patients when they come is that if the German was so good, sorry, with all due respect, why are you here? That's one. And two is, why haven't they gone to somewhere in America or somewhere? That's so good that they've imported them so that somebody's refining that for them. So it's something that it has become a mainstream all over the world. It's so standard of treatment, things have been well standardized as it is. So
could it also be the fear of one going to the hospital, as you said, or even the fear of the cost?
The cost. Yes.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Cost is forever going to be an issue until we sort out our national insurance properly, so that the coverage is very broad. It's ridiculous that people have to start looking for money at the point that you're incapacitated. It's an irony, isn't it? Because you can't even do anything to get the money, so that cost is an issue.
Okay. Yeah. So by way of guiding, one thing that we've been doing on this program from the beginning of this month is to try to guide people to live right and do right, so that they don't jeopardize their health in the name of celebration. Well, there are those who are saying, by the way, that the celebration is going to be toned down now this year with the cost of a bag of rice. But if you're to give counsel, and you already spoke to it, maybe perhaps before you go there, you talked about the need to eat right to protect your bones and your muscles, to strengthen your bones and your muscles. What are the things that are our lifestyles, our ways of life and living, maybe at work, on the roads, or even at home, that jeopardize our skeletal system?
Our orthopedic health.
Our orthopedic health. Okay. I didn't know it was a thing, but now that I know.
So first, a lot of the patients that we also get, it has to do with diseases of the spine, the spine. That's the vertebral column.
Isn't that so enclosed in that column?
Yes, it is. But people can get a lot of people will suffer from back pain from time to time. So
the way we use our cell phones,
exactly,
and
it has to do
with
the way you sit, appropriate posture. Don't sit for too long. We tend to say to people, if you're sitting for about an hour, you need to walk around, straighten out. The same thing, you don't try to lift weights inappropriately, so you don't sprain or strain your back as it is. The kind of job that you do, you also have to
Sorry, my apologies. Can you describe how people should lift stuff? Isn't it just to bend down and take it?
It's bad to try and lift stuff when you're bending your back and you're putting all the strain on your spine, on the spine as it is. What people do a lot of heavy lifting and need to undergo what is called manual lifting training, so that you can actually try to bend your knee a bit, so you relieve your back of some of that strain when you're trying to lift a hefty object.
So, forgive me, and I hope I won't get in trouble with my producer. So if I want to lift anything now, I
don't bend straight.
I don't do this.
So try and kneel at the same. Exactly.
Like this. So I want to pick this back, for instance.
That's a lot. That is a lot more protective of your back as it is.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not sure that many people listening to us now would
do that. Well, we just taught them something this morning.
Let's hope the lesson is taken. So that's one way we jeopardize it, right?
That's one way. I mean, and a good exercise. A lot of us, because we are caught in the kind of job that we do, you sit in a place for too long. Of course, you're predisposed to obesity. You're gaining weight. With that, you're going to develop all sorts of diseases. You put a lot of pressure on your joints, and of course, you can develop all the problems that are related to obesity. Excessive alcohol consumption has a lot of impact on your bone. Smoking can lead to osteoporosis.
What is excessive?
Right, so usually the doctors recommend if you're going to drink at all, you shouldn't take more than 2 units a day. And 2 units.
What is 2 units?
So 2 units. The way I assess 2 units is a bottle of beer a day. Or a glass of wine, as it is.
Not more than 1 bottle of beer. Beer parlor guys, are you listening?
And of course.
We're out of time.
And of course, good diet, like we mentioned earlier.
Well, we have learned quite a bit this morning.
Especially for those who are going to be traveling.
Well, it's Christmas season, so when you go out of town, do be careful. And sip that beer slowly so that you don't end up taking more than 1 bottle. One bottle. So says the orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Oluwaseyi Idowu, consultant orthopedic surgeon, head clinical services, National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, Lagos. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Educating us this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Literally.
So we'll be right back with another interesting conversation. Please join us after this time.
Everything you put your hand go on, your name go open doors. You self go.
Okay. Well, you can get more of that music in a bit, but you've seen what we want to quickly talk about now, the Nigeria Social Solidarity Fund of sorts. Let's have that conversation this morning on the We Niger Literary Contest with the NSSF General Manager, Dr. Fijiro Chinyenwoko. Thanks for joining us this morning. Truly appreciate your time. Well, perhaps a good way to begin would be for many people to understand the mission and vision of NSSF.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Yes, so NSSF is Nigeria Solidarity Support Fund, just to put that out correctly.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And so, and the mission and the vision of the organization?
Okay, so NSSF is a non-for-profit organization, and it was created to transform the lives of vulnerable Nigerians, to help build the healthcare systems, and to help reskill the Nigerian workforce. purpose. This vision is for a healthier Nigeria, and our mission is transforming health outcomes in Nigeria.
Okay, that's a good one there. But then we've been seeing all kinds of contests in the name of We Niger contest here and there. So what incident or event made or influenced the establishment of the NSSF?
Thank you very much. So NSSF was created in 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. When the pandemic hit the world and hit Nigeria, it became very clear that the health sector in Nigeria is ill-equipped to handle emergencies and any shock to the system. And it became also really clear that the government alone cannot transform the health system, and there is need for the private sector or the non-for-profit organization to build alongside with the health system. So the Global Citizens is an international non-for-profit organization, and the NSI, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, decided to come together, and they vetted NSSF with the idea to aid the government to recover from COVID-19 and to strengthen the health system so that it's able to withstand any further assaults to the health system.
Okay, well, at least now we know that there is a difference between National Social Security Fund and Nigeria Solidarity Support Fund. So what are the creative and innovative things that have been done in the past by your organization?
Absolutely. So since our coming together in 2020, we started with advocacy at the federal level. We to create the fund, we had advocacies with the president, with the vice president, and the ministers, and all the health agencies in Nigeria to create sort of a scope of where the greatest gap is with the health sector in Nigeria. After that was identified, we started in 2021 by first helping the government to tackle the twin challenges with vaccine inequity and vaccine hesitancy. I'm talking about COVID-19 vaccinations now. And we did that by working with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency to identify and fund the improvement of COVID-19 vaccine uptake in communities. We did that in 6 states across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, and we were able to support the vaccinations of over 1.9 million Nigerians. We also launched the We Niger photographic contest, same 2021. It was themed Visions of Nigeria. The idea behind this contest was to get the Nigerian youths talking about COVID-19 vaccinations and how we can increase the vaccination uptake, how we can reduce hesitancy. And we did that through a photographic contest. We asked the youth to take a picture of what COVID has done in their community and how people are surviving and living above the impacts of COVID-19 in their communities. And this campaign was judged by photographers like T.Y. Bello, Kelechi Amadiobi, and some other renowned photographers. And the contest resulted in the reskilling of over 400 youths as of 2020.
So what happened to those who won that contest?
Okay, so the contest is an annual event of Nigeria Solidarity Support Fund. It is seeking to reskill Nigerian youths, and by Nigerian youths, we mean people within the ages of 15 to 35 years, and to equip them for the post-COVID era, the digital world. We're focused on digital reskilling because we know that the way of life has sort of evolved since COVID-19, and there's now a lot of demand of working digitally. And this year's focus is on literature. Like I said, last year we focused on photography. This year we're focusing on literature, and the aim of that is to improve the skills and increase the knowledge of digital tools and application with writing and publishing, is to explore literature as a means of advocacy. Everything we do, we have the advocacy component in that, is to explore the way Nigerians would be able to advocate for health transformation in Nigeria, is to give the young people a voice, is to give them a platform, is to sort of find diamonds in the rock, to give them a platform to be empowered and to uplift them and to raise, of course, we do this to also raise funds to build partnerships with NSSF-funded projects as well.
Well, we'll come to the partnership, but allow me to stay on this contest bit for a little while. Well, Alera just asked you how did that other one go the other time, but what was the product of the photo contest that you had? What were you able to achieve with it? I really wish I could see some of those pictures, but what were the things? How did it go generally? What were the things you were able to achieve with it?
Okay, so we know that photography is a way of telling a story, right? So what we achieved was that the judges were able, we got entries into the contest. People told stories, pictorial stories of how Nigerians were surviving post the pandemic. And the judges were able to select the best 100 of those photographs. And those photographs were auctioned at the Bonhams UK auction, virtual auction, as of 2021. And this auction exposed these photographs to people from different parts of the world. They were able to see Nigeria through fresh eyes, through a fresh perspective. We were able to tell our Nigerian story, our COVID-19 Nigerian story. And this auction, when we got these photographs auction, we were able to use the funds raised from the auction we give prizes to the winners, to the top 100 winners, to be able to invest into their photography dream. A lot of them wanted to do more with photography, so we gave them seed funds to invest more into their photography dream. But also, some of the winners also got internship positions in some organizations as well. So that was what was done with the photographs. We have a site where we have the photographs, and we can share that site, and the photographs can be
Please share.
Please go ahead. Share the website.
Well, it's www.nigeriasolidarity.fund/the We Naija Photography Contest. That's where images are.
Nigeria Solidarity Fund?
Yes.
Fund.org or .com?
.ng.
Okay, Nigeria Solidarity Fund.ng /We Naija.
We Naija Photography Contest.
We Naija Photography, Okay. Now, for those who would love to be a part of this literary contest that you're talking about, what's the process?
Yes, there's a process to the We Naija. So we have, again, it's a digital contest. We want you to register. The registration is on www.nigeriasolidarityfund.ng/literary contest. And so I say it again, www.nigeriasolidarityfund.ng/literary contest. You are meant to register and submit your writing. And it could be a poem, it could be a prose, it could be a short story. And the idea is to paint a picture of the Nigerian health system that you want, or ways that you think that this health system can be improved, or your own story on how you've encountered the health system through your own lens. We want to hear, like I said, it's an advocacy tool. So you submit any of that to www.nigeriasolidarityfund.ng/literary-contest. And the entry ends on December 25th. So we have just about 15 days to the end of the contest. So we are advocating that if you're between the ages of 18 to 35, you have a flair of writing, you can write great pieces wherever you are in Nigeria, you're a Nigerian, write about the health system, how you see it, what you think can be done to improve the health system, and then submit that write-up, be it a short story, be it a poem, be it, a prose, whatever you want to write and submit to www.nigeriasolidarityfund.ng/literary-contest. And we will take your entry into into review.
Well, we've tried to get to that website, and I'm sure many people have tried to as well. You want to talk to your technology people to help get to that. But you wanted to mention your partners the other time, the people who partner with you. Who are the other partners that you're working with?
For this contest, we have a lot of partners in terms of judges, in terms of sponsors. Two of the partners that we are able to disclose at this moment is Coca-Cola and Whitbaker Hotel. We're able to disclose, but we have partners that are working with us for various purposes in terms of publicity as well, like channels television. So we have wonderful partners working with us to make sure that we're able to develop the youth, especially the disenfranchised youths in Nigeria.
Now, if you don't mind, can you give us that website again so we can look at the pictures?
Yes, okay, for the pictures,
yes.
www.nigeriasolidarity.ng/photography contest. Photography contest. So if you go to Nigeria Solidarity Fund website, you can search for the photography contest. If you can't get it from this site, you can go to Nigeria Solidarity Fund. It's on our website, photography contest, and all the images from last year are there on the website.
Okay, well, we're working at it. It's giving us the 404. Now, it's naturally, I mean, you spoke about something very, very germane the other time, pitching the pictures for auction and all of that. So naturally, a number of people might be wondering, okay, so what are the transparency and accountability governance mechanism in place at the NSSF?
Great, thank you for that question. We sort of pride ourselves in one of our values being transparency and accountability. So we have full transparent organization. On our website, you'll see the total funds that have been raised in NSSF. We have our annual reports, very detailed on how the funds are utilized. We have external auditors, which is KPMG, that audit us, and our audits are published on newspapers as well as our website yearly. So we have our monitoring and evaluation organizations that monitor and evaluate all our projects. We have our grant administrators, which are PwC. We have our financial, our keepers and our financial keepers, which is Anderson. So we have a robust evaluation and accountability mechanism put in place, so that everything that we do is evaluated in terms of impact evaluation. Our grants are administered through PwC, not directly through us. And then our accounting is done by, our external audit is done by KPMG, our internal audit is done by PwC. So we have a full mechanism for that.
Well, I would say that we Nigeria is very well connected. You're calling all the big names in the various areas,
Sorry, can you take that again? I didn't get that.
I said we Nigeria is very well connected because you're calling all the big names in the various sectors.
Absolutely, we have great partners, like I said, and most of these people, our internal audits and external audits, they're doing it for us on pro bono basis because they're also partners with Nigerian Solidarity Support Fund. The truth is that when you see a good cause, you would join the good cause, just the way you've joined this morning to promote NSSF. It's a great cause. We are doing it for the public. We're doing it for vulnerable Nigerians. And they have come in to see that we achieve it by making sure that what we set out to do, we do it, and we are responsible and accountable to the Nigerian public.
Okay. Well, very, very quickly, because we're running out of time. For those who would like to be a part of the literary contest, it's I've been able to reach that particular website as at now. So it's NigeriaSolidarityFund.ng/literary literary-contest. And when you get to that website, you'll see, all the things that you need to be able to be a part of it. There's an about the contest, there's how to enter the contest, there's prizes, and then there's a list of the judges. And if you want to be a sponsor, an opportunity is there for you as well. Well, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning, and we can only wish you all the best, especially given that it seems like an almost thankless job that you're doing, trying to write our story. That write, by the way, is R-I-G-H-T. That's the way it is on your website, I believe.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Fejiro Chinye Nwoko, General Manager, Nigeria Solidarity Support Fund, thank you so much for your time this morning and all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Glad to have us with you this morning.
All right.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's go to our lifestyle segment. I mean, we can't say it enough that Christmas is coming.
There's going to be a lot of traveling.
A lot of us throw caution to the winds because it is Christmas season and do all kinds of naughty things. Well, we've had Dr. Agbeniga here before, and today she's going to tell us how to look after our health while we are letting ourselves go and doing all these naughty things. We still must remember that there's life after Christmas. And we want to continue to live a healthy life and a healthy lifestyle after Christmas. So don't go too much overboard.
Now you know that you can only drink one bottle of beer.
That's not my call, actually. That's why we have a doctor here to tell us all about it.
One already told us you can't cross the one bottle line.
One bottle of beer, can you imagine? Christmas time and you're only drinking one bottle of beer a day? No, that won't, it won't work.
It's okay.
It won't work for many young men.
Ask the doctor.
Or many men.
Ask the doctor.
But so we shall ask her how they are going to have to do it. Dr. Yonda Agbeniga, Medi Ideas Lifestyle and Wellness Center. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, you're having such a good laugh.
It was funny.
No. We had an orthopedic surgeon here who told us that drinking more than one bottle of beer is actually not good for you. So Christmas is coming. Are you also agreeing with him that we should not take more than one bottle of beer? Not that I drink beer, but...
Oh, you are saying we should not drink it at all? Not that I drink beer.
We'll discuss
this. This smile is like one bottle of beer is even too much.
Yeah, I'm looking at all that could go wrong. My best approach to this is information will help you make the best decision this season. So you want to look at all the things that are going to happen to you when you go on your one bottle of beer and your one bottle of carbonated drinks and your one cup of coffee or too much cups of coffee during the season and too much French fries, too much burgers and all that. I know I'm touching the wrong bones.
All these are the components. All these are the components of Christmas.
Enjoyment. Of enjoyment. You are therefore saying we should not enjoy our Christmas.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So there's a need for the balance, and then there's what I want us to know is the effects on some of our body organs, and so we're able to make informed decision. I always say that one of the most irresponsible statements we can make is something that will kill a man. We shouldn't be the one to use our hands to get that something to kill the man.
Something will kill me. Yes, no. So if it's going to be beer, so be it.
Really? Okay, so let's look at some of the effects of some of these things on our bodies. Well, funny enough, I have this feeling that we should focus on our kidneys this time around. Like yeah, you're going to be loading up yourself with a lot of Yuletide Christmas drinks, and you're feeling like, oh, this is it. Okay, so I'll toe the line of the orthopedic doctor. So you're taking a lot of carbonated drinks into your system, and we look at the pH. That's the degree of acidity or alkalinity of that drink. That's what pH means. How acidic or how alkaline is this drink? Now, we recall that our body's blood is 7.8 pH. So the blood is neutral. And so I'm going to speak in layman's language. The blood is neutral, and your drinks that you are taking has a pH of like 3. So that means the drink is really acidic. Your carbonated fizzy drinks is really acidic. And so that means you take that processed drink, because it's already processed, the glucose in it, everything is processed. You take it straight into your body. It goes straight into the bloodstream and tries to bring down that pH of the neutral blood. It tries to drag it down with it to 3. Now, for you to maintain the blood, the work of your blood is to maintain what we call homeostasis. That's balance. That's the job. So you bring in a very acidic concentrated drink into your body system, and it pulls down your body, making it very acidic. So now, 2 things. Number 1, your bones, your body has calcium. So in a bid for the body to regulate that, it's thinking, oh my goodness, this is not smart. This is almost insane. So the pH is too high. This body is acidic. It's like taking a fish into an acidic medium. The fish will ultimately die. And that's what we do to our body system. So we have acidified the blood, and the blood is thinking, oh, how do I quickly do that? So it starts to calcium dump. You have your skeletal system. And I always say, like, God knew that we're going to mess around with our bodies anyway, so he put
all kinds of mechanisms.
He put enough mechanisms in place to regulate that, and that you have your bones, and the calcium bank. So your body starts to calcium dump. It's starting from the areas of your highest weaknesses, maybe your joints, your back, your knee, your ankle, and it starts pulling out calcium and dumping it into the bloodstream to quickly neutralize that. Like we say, in the science lab, you want to neutralize an acid quickly. If you don't have a base, you use calcium and you dump, and it will neutralize, and that's what it does. So we're dumping calcium, and that's why you have a good population of, let's say, the country where we're resident, Nigeria. Many people are arthritic because they're all calcium dumping. We've been on acidic drinks all our lives. We're 50 and we've taken that all 50 years. And so during this season, you want to watch what you're doing to your bodies, and you want to watch how much of contribution you want to do to arthritis. You understand? Secondly, let's look at the kidneys. The work of the kidney is to filter. It filters acid and all that. Now, you've taken that very acidic drink, it filters it out. You take another one, it filters. You take another one, it filters. After a while, it just says, I'm tired, I'm not filtering anymore. And it stops filtering. Not as if it stops filtering instantly. It starts retaining
reducing
some form of acid in the kidneys, and that's what we call uric acid. Acid in the kidneys are called. So you have uric acid pouch here, another pouch here, another pouch here. You have pouches of uric acid in the kidneys, and then they start to form what they call a concrement. They start to form stones.
Kidney stones.
Yeah, and that's how the kidney stones start. So you see, you want to weigh the benefits, the cost benefits of what you want to do during the season.
Dr. Gwiniga, thank you very much for scaring us. Thank you very much.
It's just information.
You have done very, very well. So now, I'm sure some people are wondering if that trip is actually worth it after all.
Well, okay. We know one of the things that, because that trip will be taken, whether we like it or yes.
Well, in that, you take this trip and then you go there and you can't eat and you can't drink. So what exactly have you come to do?
You see family. That should be enough. But, still, because at the end of the day, some of these things are going to be offered to you. And there are those who also wonder, how come the people in the villages seem to live longer, healthier, than we do.
Because they're eating fresh
cities.
food, fresh vegetables.
What are some of those concerns that you have? Do you have any fears or concerns that some people are going to be out of balance, you know, when they travel? Don't forget, it's not just one way. Those in the cities are going to go to the village.
Those in the village.
And those in the village are going to come visit
the city.
The cities.
And even those who remain in the city are busy going from Yonda's house to Ayo's house to Sade's house, and it's all a feast.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the things that we need to be cautious of? You've told us some. The scare for me here is that there are many people who don't even know the status of these organs that you're talking about. In what ways? I mean, you've told us the things that happen, okay? But there are those who say, look, as you began by saying, something will keep us. Now, at the end of the day, we continue to take these things. So how do we reverse the trend?
Yeah, so I was going to say that next, actually. But, you know, like when you're having bone problems, you're having kidney issues, of course, there's the blood pressure that gets raised as a result of having some of these stimulants in the drinks and in some of the things we're consuming. But, you know, I've always said it that as funny as this concept sounds, because I really didn't like this concept before I started this career. I used to be like, detoxification, what's that? It doesn't, it's, you know, there's a need to always detoxify. If you do, you know that you can't 100% keep the law. So once you start breaking, you need to quickly start looking for an exit. So once you do that, you should look for a quick way. Yeah, the acidic drinks, the fizzy and all those drinks, you could always neutralize them by having your natural juices around. You could run detox series sessions. Yeah, there are wellness centers that offer detox services. So you could run detoxify, clean out.
So I go to a detox center. What exactly is done to me?
All right, so a good example, if you do an infrared sauna, you go under the infrared sauna, you are detoxifying about 1 to 2 to 3, if possible, liters of sweat. So you have all those toxins being pushed out, especially if you go to wellness centers that have licensed practitioners there who understand the sciences of what's going on. Infrared helps you to widen your arteries, releases nitric oxide, which helps with your arteries, like with healing your arteries, which is also very good for your heart. So the arteries are widened and there's good circulation of blood going around. So all those clogged areas where you have your fat from all your party foods are opened, and then there's flow. There's flow of oxygen, there's flow of blood, there's flow of nutrients. And then because of the heat that is being generated from the infrared, your core temperature is increased, so you start to sweat out. Now, why I said a licensed practitioner, like there are some things that we would give you while you are on it, some vitamins, some nutrients that would give you on it, which will aid your detoxification. Regular infrared or regular saunas that people do, they don't add some of those things. There are some natural chelators that we can give you while on them, which will help with chelation. Chelation is like pulling out the fat from within your arterial walls. Your arteries, sorry, from your arteries. So it helps with chelation, pulling out. There are things that would infuse. There are some nutrients, some vitamins that go along with it, which will help upregulate your system. So despite all the law breaking, then you are going to have your nutrients infused back into.
Okay, so that is what happens when you go to a wellness center and you get detoxified there. Yeah. Suppose you want to just sit in your house and detoxify. How can you do that?
So there are different types of detoxification. Like if you do an infrared sauna or an infrared spa, that's a full body detoxification. Okay. Now, if you at home, you want to clean out by yourself, you can do a colon cleanse. You can get some, maybe your lime in water and all that, your cucumber, a slice in water and all that helps you with just trying to clean out some portions of your body. Like, I was going to say, you know, if you buy the regular suya, the guys who are selling it usually give you with a lot of cabbage, sometimes lots, and onions. Reason, it's just normal logic. If you have that meat sitting in your colon, not moving out, if you add a lot of fiber to it, it will help push out. So like you should add things like your cucumbers, your cabbage. If I indulge, I would always have a minimum of 1 to 2 cucumbers alongside with it, because it will help you push it out. Not that it is right anyway, but...
Is that the reason some people use suya with curry?
Ouch.
Just asking. Hey, I'm just asking. Why are you guys looking at me like that? Okay. Now that you've gone to the fruits and all, you talked about just colon cleansing now, the natural way. What other things that people do today? You know, this Saturday morning, going towards the afternoon, to cleanse whatever it is that you think they can do at home.
It's also important that we move. Moving, that's exercising. At the organ that I said, I think I said this before, that the heart is the organ that should always be working. So running up.
It is always working anyway.
It should always. The harder it works, you know, you need it to walk, like exercise, go up the staircase, run down the staircase, don't break an ankle, get on your cycler, your treadmill, walk back and forth if you have the space, either in your estate or wherever it is. If you can't do that, you have a cycler in your house, go on the treadmill, ensure that you oxygenate your exercise. And if you don't want to do that, of course, there are a lot of processes that you could also use to get oxygen into your system.
One of the concerns that my colleague has raised here quite a few times is that people who sit a lot at the office, and perhaps are even still doing the same thing as we speak now. How seriously injurious is it? And is there a way, any lifestyle changes they need to make?
Yeah, for sedentary activities, you should get up. I mean, there's no replication for it. You should get up and move. If you are a sedentary person, maybe your work requires that you sit down and attend to customers, then you should have like a 10 minutes or a 15 minutes break where you get up, move, walk back and forth. You know, if it is to run down the staircase or go up the staircase, that would help you. And the only alternative I know to that is when you do electrotherapy. There's one of the modalities that is called electrotherapy, which you are plugged in. It comes either as a form of a massage in which the frequency is run all over your body and you have quick lymphatic movement. Your lymph is moving, there's circulation, everything, and there is a flow of rush of oxygen on your body as the massage is run over you. Or you do pulsed electromagnetic fields that you sit and then you are pulsed. So you have your ions all moving and moving very fast. So that helps you with cellular oxygenation, which goes beyond your just breathing. Your cells get oxygen. That's the only option I know, that if you're sedentary and there's also something called passive aerobics, in which you lie down and you have an oxygenator rock you about and helps with opening up your lungs and you get in a rush of oxygen. If you're sedentary, those are the only things I know that would help you.
Let's hope that the sedentary people will do a lot of moving today. Now, are there lifestyle challenges or conditions that are peculiar to different gender? Especially as we build up to Christmas. I can see that you are wondering.
Yeah, so lifestyle challenges that could be women could be predisposed to is as a result of menopause or perimenopause, or the years preceding menopause, we usually have a drop in our hormones. And one of the hormones that we lose, that drops most times, is estrogen. That reduces bone density. So as we're doing Christmas parties, having fun, we should ensure that once you are 40 and above, please don't fall down. Because if you fall down, you could just stumble off the 1 or 2 staircases and break your leg. And you'll be like, oh, that fall was so minor. That's because your bone density has reduced. Now, it's not particularly your fault. It's because you are aging. And estrogen is dropping. So your porosity, the density of your bone has dropped. So you fall and you have a bone break and you're wondering, that was small. Yeah, that's because of that change. Then people who are predisposed to, people who do their wellness checks or health checks and see that they are creatinine, there's something, a kidney function test, their kidney function tests are not so good. This is not the time to be like indulge. It's something that will kill a man. It's just, with a kidney problem, you have no chance to indulge. There are things that you can do to help bring, an infrared will bring down your creatinine levels so fast. One session of infrared sauna will bring down your creatinine level, even your kidney readings. So this is not the time to indulge. People who are predisposed to high blood pressure, this is not the time to load your arteries, your blood vessels with fat. You know, this is not the time to...
So they should not eat fried egg.
Well, if you do that, ensure you have enough modalities to neutralize them.
Such as?
Exercise, infrared. Or passive aerobics.
There's always exercise in the mix. There's no way you can dodge it.
Okay.
So whether you are indulging or not, you must exercise.
Do passive aerobics. There's...
Okay. What is passive aerobics?
Well, unfortunately, it's not a very common practice, but we offer it also. You lie and you have something exercise you.
Oh.
Right.
That one.
You have something exercise.
So you sit down in a massage chair or something?
No, it's like a bed. You lie on it and you place your leg on the oxygenator, and it's exercise. Every 5 minutes you go on it is equivalent to 30 minutes quick walking.
So what is it doing to me?
Exercising your body.
Yeah.
Shaking me.
It's not shaking. It's trying to open up your lungs by swinging you left, right.
Okay.
By the time you're off it, you have had a good caloric burn.
Well, we have to thank you very much.
I burn my calorie on the tennis court.
That's active aerobics. Come on.
My God. Well, look, whichever way you look at this thing, you just can't let go because it is Christmas. You would like to, but as you get older, don't forget that you just can't let go and say, Christmas comes but once a year, so I'm just going to let go and just eat all the things I haven't eaten all year.
Some other things will eat you.
Whether you're in town or out of town, Christmas season or not, whether you have taken 3 bottles of beer or the one that you are allowed, you must exercise. You must burn all that nonsense you've put in your system.
Target 6,000 steps a day, at least. Yes. And that's one of the reasons you have a smartphone.
6,000.
The one that is smart. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming, because Dr. Agweniga, every time you come, we know we're going to hear some bombshell out of your mouth. And you're going to do everything you can to ruin our Christmas. You've done it again today. Thank you very much for coming. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you very much.
We're back after now.
Keep it high. rising, rise. Bring it on.
Let me begin by saying that my director and his team, they left the studio, they did 6,000 steps. Because they've been sitting there for almost 2 hours. But I get another person that has come, perhaps spent some 2,000 or 3,000 steps to get in here. Right now is our artist of the week, who is an embodiment of talent. He's proudly Abian, been in professional comedy in 2003, and has been part of Laugh Matters, Stand Up Nigeria, campus tours and concerts, and he's been a host of a good number of events and all of that. He's a music instructor, pianist. Please welcome Ojemba One.
Woo. Yes, boss. Yes, boss.
Eric Wankwa Chinedu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, boss. Nkwayo, how are you?
Nkwayo, Auntie Alero guy.
Auntie Alero. You know, when you're made, you're made. When you're big, you're big. So it's such a great honor sharing same platform with my people. We've come a long way. Me and them, we don't take. Quiet. Last time I was with him, we were together in London. Yeah, Osaka, London. We're together just to run.
Now you know he's a comedian.
I was wondering what Ayo was doing on a comedian stage in London.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
You started in 2003.
Yeah,
You're a graduate of Mass Comm.
Yeah.
From LASU, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Why comedy? Why not mass communication?
Okay, I've always had that, talent of communication in me for years, and instead of, having somewhere to just, work, I just feel it's nice. I just look for a platform where I can just explore, with several exhibitions of my talent, just to make people celebrate the grace I have, and that's just how it has been with me, my brand, and that's just how it is.
2003. Okay, go ahead.
You studied Mass Comm.
Yes, ma'am.
You became a comedian, and then you are a music instructor.
Okay.
Please connect the dots for me. I don't know road.
No fear.
Thank you.
I know carry you go where you don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
When I was growing up, those talents were just coming out, and I said to myself, okay, how do I help each of this hustle, this talent in me, and
everything
hustle.
I said to myself, guy, how do you carry this embodiment along in your, years, in your ministry, and so I just had this feeling, okay, why don't you just carry this one along, carry this along, so
put all of them in one
at least
pouch.
In one body, and the church, to the glory of God, I was privileged to play in one of an amazing church. Big shout out to First Assembly, my pastor, Pastor Steve, and Pastor Araba Akone. Another wonderful churches that really helped my brand in the music. I played the keyboard. So,
how did you learn how to play the keyboard? Who taught you how to play the keyboard?
All right. I didn't go to school for it.
To learn?
No, I didn't. I used to have one bros then, pastor. He's a pastor now, Pastor Mike. Just stand beside him. And then, at our family church, those small churches that if one member no come, the pastor go no. There's this small keyboard. After service, I used to carry the keyboard home. Drums, we take it to our house, and so very early on Sunday, we'll be in church to arrange and everything. So from the Yoruba say iple couple. From iple couple, I started developing interest in it, and I had to just, start mingling with my top, seniors in the industry that plays keyboard, respect to Pastor Mike. So
I assume that you speak Yoruba.
Yeah, I was born.
He play couple.
I was born bread and butter.
Deep Yoruba.
Very deep. So that's how it is. The only thing I learned about the keyboard is to know the rudiment, the tonic surface, knowing the keys and everything. And today, at least by God's grace, I'm using to feed myself, my family, and pay school.
And it made you even scratch your face. So how did comedy come into the mix?
Okay, it's a passion. Okay, I'm from an hilarious family where whenever we are together, this one just brings something, bring up an idea. My father brings up an idea, my siblings, my mom.
Give us an example of such a scenario.
Okay, apologies to my dad. My dad. My dad snores a lot. He snores, and whenever he snores like this,
where is he? Is it possible that he's watching you now?
Definitely, my siblings are watching. I know they would have tuned to. Every morning like this, there's a level of snoring that my father gets to that we just will keep on for mind. That when it's daybreak, the moment someone just look at me, one of my siblings just look, sorry, I can't do that here. But the level of snoring, and we'll say, My mother is so used to that system to a point. Every morning, my mama will just come to our room and say, your father at it again. So each time my father tries to look for trouble, we just use that to get him. All of us, we just laugh at him, and then, one or two jokes from it, all of us will just laugh. And so it goes on like that. Secondary school days, my friends, I used to yab them, do some yabbies games. I used to win some competitions then. I used to anchor some of our little birthdays, all those birthdays that they do in, those way they do for backyard and outside. All those birthdays that used to have what we call devil's baskets. Many of us remember. Big shout out to one of the best schools in Lagos, Somori Comprehensive High School. I must hype this school because this school really brought out that, talent.
Where?
Somori Comprehensive High School.
Where?
It's in Ifako, College Road, Ogba. So all those, hustles, crack jokes, people will laugh. It goes on like that until after secondary school. I joined a drama department. I was in the comic department in the drama team then. Just give us a drama to play. I'll just bring up the humor part of it. People will laugh. Then before you know it, the vibes start coming up of being a stand-up comedian because I started as a comic actor. This
was before university?
Yes. That was quite a long time. So
wow.
That was just how it is today. I started as a comic actor, which we all know as a skit, whatever now, and it has been an amazing journey.
So you started professionally in 2003, you said?
Professional 2005, to be precise, okay. Yes. After joining my boss, Benga Dinka, the GCON, big shout out to you, boss. We got introduced to him on Laugh Matters. We used to do the comic section called Short and Sharp, which we all know as skit. Just some little time of skit, just do something, and that was how the hustle started. And I followed him.
Why not they call them hustle?
Hustle, okay. That just our own way of understanding ourselves. Hustle.
I hope you people know the meaning of that word. Now, how has it been for you, stand-up comedy? There are different strokes for different folks. Various people have different stories to tell about it. Yeah. What's been your story?
Okay, the story has been amazing though. Although when we started, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, being given the opportunity to be heard, but still the vibe to continue the hustle was, and then there wasn't anything like social media, which many of us are enjoying today. I wish we held on to our skits very well then during the Laugh Matters section when we used to, by now, skits for just skits for the chop now. But it's been an amazing journey though. It's been an amazing journey.
How well received was that with you when you told family?
They've always known me to be the entertainer among us. Okay, my father, my mother, they know sure that this guy must say something that will make them laugh, and it has always been that. Just create something, just create a scene, and
don't worry, it's not me.
It goes on like that, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it's been worth it.
It's been worth it. The hustle has been worth it. Many have been discouraged about it. It's not been easy though.
What do you mean it's not been easy though?
Many of our colleagues, some are, are easily discouraged about the fact that they are not heard about, they are not heard, let me just put it that way. Some try to look for the talent, the platform to showcase it. They don't get it, and they tend to just dive into other hustles, other ministry, let me put it that way. So that's just how it is. But it's been an amazing journey.
But there are loads and loads of comedians in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Were you not discouraged by the huge number? And some other person would sit down in one corner and say, what jokes am I going to tell that haven't been told? There's so many of us. Why would any corporate body, for instance, or why would any event decide to use me?
Okay, big shout out to the king of comedy, Ali Baba. There's one event where all together, comedians, and Ali came out and made one very important point that I'll never forget. He said one thing he loved about our industry is that even if you are new or you're old, as far as you're good, you'll get your clients. And that alone has been my strong weapon. Big shout out to all the colleagues in the industry, at least in as much as we're all doing well, I tend to celebrate them in their own areas. But no matter how, there's always room for every client to call you. That has been a strong encouragement to me, at least. For 2003, I've been in this hustle. I know many, my face may not be on people's, platforms there, but come on, that vibe, that hustle, that passion, has kept many of us going, and that's one thing that still, keep the vibe.
I need to say something to you.
Yeah.
Almost every comedian who has come here has given a big shout out to Ali Baba. He did not feel threatened by anybody. He mentored a huge number of you. That is not, it's not really normal, is it? He didn't see you all as competition. You want to do, oh yeah, come, I go teach you. I go teach you. I go guide you. Everybody came on board. And today you all look at him as the grandfather of comedy, and you all pay your respects to him.
If not for the way he nurtured many of us, till today, many of us will not come out to say, I'm a proud comedian, I'm a proud MC, I do this for a living. I call him the ancestor. I call him the ancestor of comedy. He's not just a father, he's a great-grandfather, because he's been able to nurture so many people that nurtured people that have nurtured people, and that industry, it has made the industry so wide, interesting, accommodating. Although this period now work.
This Christmas season, have you?
No, it's not just about the event you get, but the work you put into the hustle.
That's
the ministry.
That's the next question that I was going to ask you.
The work, because it's not just about bringing in more, colleagues joining the industry. The work now is deep.
Now, if it's a musician,
you
can sing the same song in every concert.
I was saying to some of my colleagues, we have a comedian platform. Big shout out to the CFR movement. Big shout out to each and every one of us. Every Friday there's something we always do. We always, test our abilities. Okay, we do what we call Freestyle Friday. The topic will be dropped on the platform. We just start creating jokes on it. And a colleague, brought up a topic about. I'm coming to this question you asked, about repeating jokes. Now, sir, I will ask you, sir. If fuel scarcity would come every year, who are we not to repeat our jokes every year? Who are we not to repeat our jokes? You know, it's not, you know, there's no way we can stop that
But we
area.
don't want fuel scarcity every year.
You know, sir, check on now.
We don't want fuel scarcity every year.
So until that area stop.
So once it stops, no more repetition.
No more repetition of jokes. And come on, if the likes of the two Babas will repeat jokes for over, I mean, it's songs every year.
Not forget, say, Dangote refinery goes soon start.
The reason can't do IT with the man self.
So when you talk about the work, for those who, because there's those who just say, the comedian says, or rather the MC says, who is also a comedian, says he's charging 500,000 naira, and the guy, the event person will be like, for just holding the mic, you know, for. So perhaps there isn't, or rather, let me ask you, do you think there is enough appreciation or value placed on the creativity put into your work by your clients or by people who potentially want to engage you guys?
I would say it hasn't been encouraging the way we expect, because many of these, at least for the fact that the king Alibaba has paved this way for many of us, at least all of us go to school. We're not there's this people they used to call us, call us then, we will wear some kind of cloth just because they want to perform. We dress very well now to anchor event. We work, we do some homework. Research. And at the end of the day, you charge us less. How do you want us to feel, or how do you want us to work? This is an area where, by the special grace of God, this our area of industry will be a course in the university. Stand-up comedy will be a course, like a course, you know.
Course of study.
Yeah, course of study.
Yeah.
Because this area, people are working, people are, doing some mad research, creating jokes, writing content, scripts on each, shout out to all the skit makers doing well, at least enjoying that area of their craft, people are working. So each time I hear people charge us less, I just feel, is it that you don't know about us or you don't make research about some of our craft? Because now, at least, if the likes of the kings are making huge amounts, how can we? Because we're learning from these people.
Don't worry.
We learn from them.
Some of them will say your time will come.
Your time will come.
Your time, definitely.
Well,
definitely.
I really would love for us to take, a song before we close this morning. So we have to thank you very much for being a part of this program this morning. Eric Ojemba One.
Kwayo, thank you for having me.
Meanwhile, where did that name Ojemba come from?
Ojemba came from a drama character I played while in secondary school, Summary Comprehensive High School. It was a stage play, and we're looking for a name to give to each person. And one of my guy, Kabuchi, is in US now. Just a guy. Ojemba.
And that's it.
And that's it. And after playing that role, and that's just.
Thank you so much for being a part of our program today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time.
Eric Chinedu Wanko,
AKA
Ojemba
One. That's it.
Thank you very much for coming on Sunrise today. And that's our package for today. We bring you a fresh one next week, he being our strength. I wish you a happy week and see you next week. My name is Alero Edu.
And don't forget, DSS is coming. Not that DSS. DSS.
In 2 weeks.
Yes, in 2 weeks. More on that next week. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.